Hey Nate, thanks for joining the show today. You join us as the senior principal designer at LinkedIn, and you've been there a long time. But can you tell us a little bit about what brought you into the UX world and your background in UX?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be here. I'm really happy to be talking to you. I've been at LinkedIn for like over 8 years. It's easy to keep track of because
Yeah.
my youngest child was born just before I joined LinkedIn. He's 8, so I can always keep track of, as long as I work here, how long I've been here. Um, yeah, so that's like ancient in LinkedIn years almost. There's definitely people who've been at the company longer than me. The fun fact is that we actually have a system that allows you to look up the percentage of the company and in your organization that was hired after you or joined
Yeah.
the company after
Where are
you.
you at?
I think I'm at 99 point some decimal
Wow.
percent at this point. So that
Congrats.
tells you a little bit about like LinkedIn's growth and kind of our trajectory during the time that I've been there. So it's been a pretty wild ride, but a lot of learning. Um, Yeah, and today I'm an individual contributor, though I've played kind of both roles as a design manager as well as an individual contributor. Used to be a manager, decided not to be. And I came into LinkedIn through the kind of brand and marketing design door. Um, Prior to that time, I had done some freelance work. I'd also worked at a startup called Visually for a little while. I had previous to that, and kind of my entry point into design in general was through actually working in video production, motion graphics.
Okay.
So that's where I got my start. And it was like about 5 years, also 5 very intense years working at a production company um, that is still around, still run by some friends of mine called Picture Lab. And we worked on videos for some of the biggest companies in Silicon Valley at the time were, on a rocket, but not yet like world dominating the way that they are now. So we did videos with Facebook and we did videos with Google and all sorts of stuff. So that was a really amazing design learning crucible
Right.
where working for big companies, fair amount of money on the line, um, had to learn how to do a lot of things to hopefully a pretty high level fairly quickly. And then I think that gave me a way to find my way in to other aspects of design through the connections I made there through to other startups like mint.com. Um, those are, some of the folks from Mint were the ones who found it visually. And then, I got to learn a heck of a lot more about this whole thing called UX design and learned about that through my connections there. And
Hmm.
then, long story, but came into LinkedIn through brand and marketing, but almost immediately got hooked because just a huge dork on this whole new, area of design that I hadn't really touched a whole lot of, which was UX design, working on product design. And so I had a great chance to learn about that and to kind of grow into it in my role at LinkedIn. And most of the time I've been there, I've been really focused on design systems. So I was a manager of the design systems team when it was first called design systems.
Yeah.
And that was really, really informative. I'm very thankful to our leadership at the time, Steve Johnson, who's now, I think, Senior VP of Design at Netflix, gave me that opportunity, knowing that I didn't know a whole heck of a lot about UX design yet, but somehow believed in me enough to entrust me with trying to build out a UX design system. Um, but I think hopefully he felt like I came from a good place branding wise. So I think he
Yeah.
wanted to see those two things together. And that's really where I really found a foothold at LinkedIn, and I've kind of been in that realm ever since, focused on design systems in like some way, still connected to it.
Yeah, let's dive into that. I mean, obviously, we've seen LinkedIn is the only social media I have. It's the only one that adds value and interesting connections and allows us to scale a business and scale a network. And I use it every day. And with that said, I've seen it evolve. I love the new
Yeah.
iteration, the new design refresh, if you will. But how do you approach a design system for something as big and as large of a scale. I don't know how many countries you're in, probably all of them, but across languages, across the globe, how do you
Yeah.
build the design system for something that big?
Definitely iteratively, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
taken us years to get to this point.
yeah,
And when I started it, the scope was really kind of, we had stuff built for web. There was this idea of building out like I don't even know if it was called a design system at that point, but building out your kind of shared set of basic web elements or components. You'd share your Photoshop file to make sure all of your designers use the same buttons and stuff, like kind
yeah.
of like almost like a style guide. It was helpful, um, but didn't really have this idea of how transformative a fully coded, like really well supported, documented, well advocated for design system would really be transformative and kind of take off like it has in the industry. So didn't really have any idea of that when we began. So we kind of have had to build that up over time as people got used to this idea and as we were able to successfully advocate for it. Thankfully, we've also had really effective design leadership who has always been interested in investing in this area at LinkedIn.
Right.
I know that's not true for everyone. There's probably people who are like, like curse
Yeah.
you. Like I have to like try to struggle with that all the time. I was very fortunate in that we all from the get-go had design leadership that believed in it and were able to effectively communicate to other partners like this is important.
Yeah.
Um, I'd say the biggest inflection point for our design system was going from web support only, basically, to mobile, because obviously the world is mobile. And when our mobile apps are really taking off, and we made that transition, easily the majority of visits that we get are on mobile. When that happened, I think that was a point where it was like, okay, we really have our grown-up pants on now. We are an infrastructure piece, and we need to take this incredibly seriously. We need to be relied on to be of high quality, to be easily understood, so that people would actually start using it, to be able to kind of see the benefits of using that system.
Mhm.
So that was a real game changer for us, and it was a ton of work.
Nate, what advice would you have for junior emerging designers just getting started in their careers?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do have a chance to pretty frequently talk to folks who are, either they're seeking or maybe they came right out of some training, whether that was college or through a program, and looking at portfolios, looking at any advice that they might offer, or I might be able to offer to them, I should say, because I think they're hungry for it. And there's a couple things that I would mention is that industry is a very it's a hot one right now. Like a lot of people want to do this. I
Yep.
think rightly so, because it's a field that's like growing. It's a very unique field, and I think that what that can mean, I know from experience talking to people on LinkedIn, as well as from what we know from LinkedIn itself, it can be really hard to feel like you're finding a footing there and finding a job that you can really hold on to and feel like you can really learn from, or as a place to grow, because you might often be like the one person there. And that struggle to try to improve your craft and to try to like connect to other people who might be able to maybe get you that next thing that might be what you really are after, or to
Right.
help you further your career, is really hard. What I would encourage people is, number one, like, don't give up on that, because you are you and other people just haven't seen it yet. And it's really difficult. The paths are almost never straight. Like it's never like boom, right out from this thing
Yeah.
straight into what I wanted. So expect to have like a meandering path. Also, just because I work at LinkedIn, reach out to people. Like people have so
Yeah.
much to give, and they want to offer their time, their expertise. They want to help you.
Yeah.
They may not be able to hook you up with that thing the first time, but they really do want to hear from you, and they want to be able to give. They've been in the same situation you have. So don't hesitate. I know it can be intimidating, but don't hesitate.
I,
It's
yeah, I just want to totally agree with that. I think that's the power of LinkedIn for me and so many others, that it seems, but we're all on there to network. That's really what it was originally. One of the four core principles of it was a networking app, and use it for that. There's people out there who have walked the path you want to walk, and some of them won't respond because they're busy, and some of them will, and you'll have a great conversation. So I think that's great advice to anyone
absolutely
getting into the field. So Nate, as we wrap things up, anyone or anything you'd like to shout out before we wrap up?
Yeah, absolutely. So just on the design systems front, Nathan Curtis, who has part of his own company called 8 Shapes, I think I have that right, is just a treasure in the design systems world. His articles, the way he writes about design systems, about all sorts of different design systems too, because not all of them are the same. He has done so much writing and thinking on this that if you haven't read his articles and kind of looked at what he's done, you're missing out on this wealth of wisdom and knowledge that I'm sure will accelerate you in all ways, whether it's like building a design systems team, how to successfully advocate for your design system, how to organize it, how to name stuff, which is like the hardest thing ever. He has all of that. So find him. You can find him on Medium. Just look up the name Nathan Curtis. I gave him a shout out on LinkedIn the other day, and he wrote me back. So junior designers, people do write you back. Wrote me back, and I gave him kudos. Offered to, send him some money as like a beer donation or whatever he would like, and he just said no, thanks. This is great, just to get the shout out. So shouting him out again because he deserves it.
Yeah, hell yeah, we appreciate that, and we'll check them out and encourage others to as well. Well, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Yeah,
and keep making LinkedIn awesome, because we love it.
that's so great to hear. Yeah, happy to be here.